My first digital launch product did $1,650 in sales. My 19th launch did $3.73 million in sales. And this video is the story of what happened in between those two launches. So this first one, $1,650, that was amazing. It felt life-changing for me. Until that point in my life, I had just made money through a paycheck. I had never had any type of a business. I didn't know anything about marketing and sales. And the fact that people would pay me money for something that I created was just incredibly amazing, incredibly empowering. And it set up everything that came after that. So my second launch did a lot better. That was $6,000. So it was almost 4 times better. And in that launch, I learned the power of the deadline. This is a lesson that I will never forget. That if you're going to make an offer, that when you put a deadline on it, it will increase the results at a huge level. If you're going to do a launch, the launch has to have a definitive end to it. Because this launch was going along just like that first launch. There was like no difference between these two until the last few hours. And all of a sudden, the sales skyrocketed in the last few hours. And I went from doing a launch that maybe, I don't know, maybe it would have done a tiny bit better. Maybe it would have done $1,800 or $2,000. But I ended up doing $6,000 because I had a deadline. And ever since then, I have never, ever made an offer in a launch that did not have a deadline. It's absolutely critical. And you serve your people by giving them a deadline, because if you've got a great product for them, you want them to make a decision, either yes or no. And when you put a deadline on it, it brings them to that precipice of actually making a decision. So that was my second launch, 4 times better. That was pretty freaking amazing. Then the sixth launch was another huge leap, $34,000. At that point, that was the most money I'd ever made in an entire year. It was freaking amazing, $34,000. And the big lesson I learned there was the sequence. So this is still early days where I was developing that launch formula. I was developing my product launch formula. And from the earliest days, it was all about turning your marketing into an event. But this is where I really started to crack the code on how to sequence the pre-launch content so it created that desire for your offer before it was even available. Desire before availability. It's about turning your marketing into an event, and the results grew. It was just a huge, huge result. And oh, by the way, when I did that first launch, I was a stay-at-home dad. I was home taking care of a couple little babies. My wife was supporting the family. This was the one that brought my wife home. After this launch is when we started talking about having her retire and come on home and help me in the business. Absolutely amazing launch. Then fast forward a couple more launches. The 8th launch did $104,000. Now, when I first started my business, my goal, I sat down and I wrote down all my goals, and they were the biggest goals. These weren't like achievable goals. These were like the biggest you could think of. And at that point, I wrote down a number for what I wanted as my income. The biggest number I could think of was $100,000 in a year. And here I just made $104,000 in a week. And what I learned in that one is it's all about the offer. And so every established, experienced marketer, entrepreneur knows this, that you have to obsess about creating an amazing offer for your prospect, an amazing offer for your avatar, an offer they're like, I gotta have that. Because when you get the offer right, it makes everything so much easier. And this is the one where for the first time, I absolutely crushed the offer. At every piece in place. It was an amazing offer. And that launch just took off from the minute I pressed go. The minute I hit the send button on that first email, it just took off. $104,000. So if I do the math, this was about 3 years after I started the business. So everything I'm talking about, none of this didn't happen overnight, right? But if you think about it, in like 3 or 4 years to go from this dream of $100,000 income as a dream goal, to doing over $100,000 in a week, pretty ridiculous. Okay, so a nice progression so far. Then we're going to jump. So this is 10 launches later. 8th launch, $100,000, right? The 18th launch, $600,000. Just on a huge leap. And what I learned here is all about the model. So I basically, here I switched niches. My first niche was all about teaching people about the stock market. Then that business went away when my ex-partner stole the business. My business partner stole the business. And I came up with a new niche. And that niche was teaching people about online marketing and building a business, an online business, and entrepreneurship. And this is when I came out with the very first version of my product launch formula, the very first launch. Brand new market. I had no list. I had no presence, but I had made some significant friendships of other people in the market who had audiences, who had lists, who had followings. I coached a lot of them. Even before I was known in the greater world for my marketing, for my launch skills, I coached them, and then they ended up promoting for me. So I had a different traffic model. And this was the first affiliate launch, the first joint venture launch that I did, $600,000 in the first week in that business, starting in a new niche. And when I started, I had no list. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And that set up the very next launch, the 19th launch, $3.73 million. And the word I've got for you there is proof. Because this was 2005. And then I took about 2.5 years working with all my new students and getting them results. And the results of my PLF students, my product launch formula students, was amazing. They were getting just incredible results doing launches in every market and every niche that you can imagine, all different business models, all different types of products around the world, all kinds of languages. And I just poured into those people, and I helped them, and I coached them, and I worked with them, and I kept on sending them more bonuses and more material and more encouragement. And they came back and they shared their proof with me. Many of them became partners, became new affiliate partners for me. But basically in 2008 was the 2.0 version of Product Launch Formula. And I came out with this indisputable proof. And that's how I went from 600,000 to 3.7 million. In fact, the sales were absolutely ridiculous. I made over $1 million in sales in less than an hour in this launch. We had to shut this launch down because we were so overwhelmed with demand. When I shut the launch down, just because we couldn't service all the people that were coming in, we were selling over $100,000 an hour, and I shut it down just because we were drowning in new clients. That's what proof does. So that is the journey through 19 launches from $1,650. And here's the thing is, one launch out of all these stands out as by far the most important launch. And you know what launch I'm going to talk about, right? Just one launch. And I'll tell you what, it wasn't 3.7 million. It wasn't the 600,000 that set me off into a new market. The most important was the very first one. The very first launch, because that proved to me that I could create value in this world and that I could put together an offer. And then if I followed this process, this launch process, I could communicate that value to my prospects and they would pay me. And that one thought that I can create value in a digital product, I can share that with the world, I can get paid for it. Everything that's come after it. I've now done over $100 million in sales of my products. My students and clients have done way more than that. Huge numbers. And it all came from that same thought. That thought of, I can create value and get paid for that value. And then there was one other thought I had at that time. This is equally important. And literally, after I did that first launch, I thought to myself, I can do this again. And I can do it again, and I can do it again, and again and again. And I might even get better at it. And I just told you the story of how I got better at it. Just by grinding, just by finding this formula, by making the formula better, by getting results for my clients and having my clients share those results with the world. So here's the thing. I'm about to go into my launch masterclass. So I do this once a year. And the launch masterclass is where I teach my full formula for how to launch. And you know what? It will lead into me reopening the registration for my product launch formula coaching program. But whether you end up joining me in that or not, you're going to get an amazing education in how to launch. This is now the 20th year. The first launch, the very first one, that $600,000 launch, the very first one, that was in 2005. Here we are 20 years later, and product launch formula is now better than ever. This is the best version ever. I've made it better, and I've kept on recreating it and recreating the best version ever of product launch formula. It's coming in just a couple weeks from when I'm filming this. We're going to start the Launch Masterclass. You're going to have a great experience. I'll put a link down below. And I just want to celebrate this progression and the progression I've seen from so many of my clients. So go down below, click that link, get on the wait list so you'll get everything that's coming in the Launch Masterclass. It's going to be absolutely amazing. So I'm Jeff Walker. Wherever you're watching this, go ahead, go down, click that link, join me in the Launch Masterclass, and let's go get them this week.